And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It feels like home. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show. LateNightParents.com is the site. I got my man Danny Thompson in the building. Danny, who owns the drama? That's tonight's segment or episode.
I
But it's
mean,
going to be like a mini segment, a mini episode. Because I don't know about you, but I do know about you. I haven't done a podcast in more than a month.
that's like a
More than a month. And it actually felt good. I got the time to detox and all the above. But how are you doing?
it's always good to take time for yourself. Just like I said, recharge the batteries, and then when you get back in the saddle, it's just time to go. But as far as I go, it's beautiful. Working in the radio industry now, finally I can say it. It feels good when you receive a check for your work. But
Yes.
just maintaining, waiting for Saturday night to watch the Tar Heels in Coach K for the second time, and this time he'll never come back after Saturday. So I can't wait. But life is beautiful. The wife is good, mom is good, the daughter's good. So I really can't complain too much about life right now.
That is true. Before we even get started, I want to give a big shout out to all the women in our lives for Women's International Month.
Yes.
Um, you know, they shouldn't just be celebrated on during the month of March or during the various months, Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter. But hey, I do want to give a shout out to Washington Spirit star Trinity Rodman from the NWSL.
Yes.
You want to briefly
I'll let you break down with that.
expound on why we were giving her a shout out?
No, Tim. You know what? I'm gonna set the pick of this one. Go ahead. Go ahead. Take it to the basket. Go ahead. Get that basket on that one.
Dude, the NWSL's highest paid player
Mm-hmm.
at the age of 19. Very, very proud of her, of these accomplishments, understanding. And she said, I'm showing younger players and even older players that have been in the league and haven't gotten paid what they deserve.
Now, only thing missing on her resume besides being the highest paid player in the league is getting into the World Cup and getting that gold medal, getting that World Cup championship and a gold medal. That's the two next things on her list.
That is true. What's up? Tony D is in
Tony,
Twitch. Tony, this is a mini episode because I think you and I got some unfinished business to restart this thing back up. Um, who else did I want to shout out? Also, well, I wanted to give a thumbs down to, um, even though a lot of people were giving him the thumbs up, Mayor of New York, Eric Adams, thumbs down for those sweeps that you're doing on the homeless right now. Long story short, I'll go in depth on another episode, but we get it. There's a homeless crisis. You're the mayor of New York, the newly minted mayor, elected mayor of New York. But before you do these sweeps, where's the infrastructure to send the people to?
Ted,
It's great that we're seeing photo ops and video footage of tents and canopies and all the above being ripped down, but what are we doing for the people?
Ted,
What
it's
type of
one of those.
services are we providing for the people?
It's not. I don't know what it is, but I just know it's basically a way to get people off his case. He had a rough
Yes.
last week, and so what's the
Oh,
best
of
way to do
course
it?
he had
Try
a
to make
rough
things.
last week. I mean, because it's the story of the haves and have-nots. You and
Yeah,
I were going back and the best thing about us, Danny, we go back and forth and talk about today's topics.
everything.
We talk everything. We talk life. Uh, Danny, last week, roughly a week ago, where he basically said, the private sector mandate is done for athletes and celebrities, entertainers, but public workers, nothing. They're still out there. So roughly there was about 1,400 people, professionals that lost their gig, but
Mhm.
Kyrie Irving can play basketball now.
Well, Ted, you already I mentioned this on my radio show. I said that the moment Aaron Judge went on that podium and said he'll worry about his vaccination status when we get to that point, I
Right.
knew at that point, the second that he came off that press conference, I'm sure Kyrie Irving and everybody told him, don't get that vaccine. We got a way we all can win. It's just really weird to me how we have this entire press conference at Citi Field. You have the mayor, you have the Yankees, you have the Mets. But where is the Brooklyn Nets in all this?
They weren't.
But which proves
You
to
had to
me
point a few things out to me.
that the power of the New York Yankees is
Randy
supreme in the city of New
Levine.
York.
You do know Randy Levine used to work for, he was a deputy mayor under Rudy Giuliani.
Ted, but the simple thing was there's three things in New York you don't mess with. You don't mess with Steinbrenner, you don't mess with the Yankees, and you don't mess with anything affiliated with the Yankees and Steinbrenner. All right. If you think the Yankees are going to opening day with Aaron Judge going to miss 93 games because of the fact of he can't play in New York City, which cancels the entire Yankees home season and the Subway Series, and the fact of he cannot play in Canada in the middle of a World Series chase was not going to happen. It's Aaron Judge. It just shows that Aaron Judge might be the most powerful man the most powerful athlete in New York City.
You're right.
It's not Kyrie Irving.
It sure isn't Kyrie Irving. Hey, big
It's
shout out to touring the AFC South, Mr. Mike Patton,
Patton.
who celebrated a birthday.
Yes, sir. But
Um, so go
but
ahead.
it's just one of those things where you look at the power struggle because the Yankees is the city of New York. It's like Big Brother, Little Brother, and I said this before, Ted. If Kyrie Irving played for the Knicks, he wouldn't have missed. He would have been back by Christmas because even though the Knicks aren't winning, the Knicks are 1B to Yankees 1A when it comes to power in the city. The Nets, the Mets, the Islanders are all the little brothers compared to the Rangers, the Knicks, and the Yankees. The old
And the
MSG,
Giants. And
well,
the
yeah, the
Giants.
Giants. So Ted, the old MSG network, how it used to be, Ted, when you were back in your days with hair, how MSG used to be, Rangers, Knicks, Yankees, how it used to be, and Giants was all MSG.
Well,
And
you
that's
got
what the
to
power
remember,
struggle.
you got to think about it. You know the tier, because if you lived in New York, there was MSG 1, 2, and 3. And based on that, you would have the specific teams, the top tier teams you're going to have on the
MSG
MSG
one.
Prime. And
Yeah.
then you have 2 and 3 with everyone else.
Yeah, which basically is like all the little brothers. The Mets, the Islanders, you know, the net well that is not the Nets, but anybody that's considered secondary in New York City, the Jets, it is what it is. So it just proves the fact of there was no way the Yankees were going into opening day, and even the Mets, with the two most richest owners. I mean, Steve Cohen is worth what, 20, 15, 10, 15, $20 billion dollars. You
Mm-hmm.
really think that Steve Cohen is going to allow his boys, who have a really good chance to win the World Series, to make the World Series in the National League, to miss guys as 10 players on the roster, Aaron Judge and some other name big time slugger is not vaccinated? There's no way New York's going without it. And now, be honest with you, Ted, the real question is going on is what's going to happen in the NBA playoffs? Because there's a report that came out today, Ted, I don't know if you saw this, that Tim Bontemps and ESPN had released today asking about vaccination status before the NBA playoffs. It has been
What?
confirmed. It's been confirmed that the Miami Heat and Milwaukee Bucks are fully vaccinated. But the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics declined to comment on are their entire teams vaccinated, which comes completely important because the Toronto Raptors will be waiting for somebody in the playoffs.
Right.
And those players cannot cross into the country of Canada in the playoffs, which means they'll miss games.
Okay.
That's a slippery slope, and now, Ted, to be honest with you, if Brooklyn and Toronto end up in a playing game situation, if Toronto is 7 and Brooklyn is 8, Ted, the Nets will not have Kyrie Irving and get in that first game of the playoffs.
You're right. We're
And then
hoping being fanboys that right
Cleveland,
now, well, as of earlier today, I'm not following tonight's slate of games. The Raptors were in at number 6.
and for the good news for Nets fans is, as an update, the Cavaliers lost to the Mavericks tonight.
Oh.
Because Luka, I think, is still
I think
scoring on the
Nets and
Mavericks.
Cavs tomorrow.
Yes. So the Nets, Ted, can really get into 6. They have a chance at 6.
But don't they have to run the table?
I mean, Ted, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You would put a bet down for them to run the table.
Oh, yeah, I have no doubt. But you kind of get into the last game of the season. You know how you get into the point of, okay, well, then again, it's going to be so close. If it's close like that, then you're going to have to play the guys straight out.
And also,
and you might have to run them 35, 40 minutes.
The Nets also have to realize, okay, we worry about seeding, but if you can avoid the play-in game, you're going to play to get yourself into 6, no matter who you're playing, because who wants to put a potential extra game or two of wear and tear on those guys and then have an upcoming playoff series come right behind it? I don't think the Nets fear anybody in the playoffs. I think everybody in the East will fear the Nets because of the fact of who wants to deal with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in a playoff series?
No one.
And if you look at the Eastern Conference structure, is the Nets, the Celtics are weakened because Robert Williams is out for at least 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. So they're
Do you
starting.
really see him coming back? Do you really see him coming back and making a difference in the second round of the playoffs?
Robert Williams, they're going to need Robert Williams because I can't trust Al Horford to play 35 minutes tonight.
Right.
As good as Al Horford is, but as old as Al Horford is, his body's not going to hold up.
Okay. So, one tweet I saw tonight, which encompassed this evening, which the way and it stated, and I'm going to get this right, and I quote, from Bucks District, Bruce Arians was what the NFL pretends the Rooney Rule is.
Yes. Listen, Bruce Arians has done more for so many people that will never get credit for, because guess what? Listen, not only did Bruce Arians win his championship that he's been trying to get for his career, he was able to step down, go into the front office, and be able to handpick his successor, which is a guy who would, honestly, Ted, never would have gotten a second chance in the NFL. I hate to say it. For as good as Todd Bowles has been, he would have never got a second chance anywhere. And it's not just any second chance. As long as Tom Brady's not traded, Todd Bowles is a great situation. He has a chance to win the Super Bowl again with a team that's completely familiar with him.
No, I want to stop you there and say BA gave him not only the opportunity with the Cardinals, but also with the Bucks, because it was originally when he was the DC for the Cardinals that allowed him that opportunity with the Jets.
And you know what, Ted? I'm going to say this. Maybe Bruce Arians is to the NFC what Andy Reid might be in the AFC. Because Andy Reid has been petitioning for a black coach, Eric Bieniemy, for years to be a head coach in the league, and no one's going to give Eric Bieniemy the opportunity. Andy Reid's getting up there.
Yeah, he's going to have to wait it out.
But who knows how much more Andy Reid's going to coach?
No one knows. So as sad as it sounds, you look at that situation with Kansas City with that offense. Why leave?
But Ted, here's the thing. Why stay? He's been around so long. Maybe he just wants, like you said, maybe pull up Bruce Arians, go into the front office, or maybe just enjoy life. He's been coaching for how many years now? What,
Yeah.
2 decades?
Who, Arians?
No, Andy Reid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I think in Bruce
He's
Arians' case, I think Bruce was kind of over it. He got his world championship. He couldn't defend it. And you know what? Tom Brady's 44 years old. We don't know what his future looks like. He says he's coming back, but now there's reports and rumors that maybe he might be wanting to go to the Miami Dolphins. We don't know. And I don't think Bruce Arians wanted to deal with that circus for another year. And listen, he wants to go home, have a few drinks, and talk football and just enjoy life. Let that
That's
man live
true.
in Florida. He'll never have to pay for a drink again because he bought Tampa a world championship.
Listen, if I was in his town and he was in my presence, I would definitely make sure he wouldn't have to buy another beer. And I'm sure every fan down there would feel the same way.
I just love that.
Um, oh, go ahead.
I just love to have a beer with him just to see how that whole
Yes,
conversation will go.
yes. I would love to have a beer with, who appears to be fun, Bruce Arians, and definitely the Ryan brothers.
Oh boy,
Let the Ryan
so
brothers open up a tab, and I bet you
the
all
football
chaos and mayhem.
Ted is going to be two. It's going to be two F's: football and feet.
Yes. Hey, let's dip quickly to any thoughts on Apple and MLB.
I'm excited.
Friday night doubleheaders.
I'm excited to see what goes on next week. You know, for the first, this week, Ted, you have being a video game buff. This week, MLB The Show comes out on Tuesday. It's actually out tomorrow
Correct.
if you have the early copy version of the game. But if you're an Xbox owner like myself, it's on Xbox Game Pass for free starting Tuesday at midnight. The
Nice.
full game MLB The Show 22, which leads into opening day. So I get my video game fix and I get my people version fix throughout the week. I'm excited to see what Apple does with their version of Red Zone or Strike Zone, whatever you want to call it, their game of the week. I want to see if Apple will do their own production or are they taking other people's feeds. Because I know the WNBA did it last year. I'm one of the biggest proponents for the women in the WNBA. I just hated the fact of when you watched their games on Amazon, I'm getting the Yes Network stream instead of getting a full-fledged Amazon production.
Ah.
I just want to see if Apple's going to give me a full-fledged Apple production, or am I watching the Bally Sports version of the game, which I'll be extremely disappointed
um, I will say this much. I'm expecting the big whiz bang from Apple. I want to see what they're gonna do. I know next Friday is gonna start it off, the double headers.
in. Yep.
Pretty
I'll be tuning
excited
in.
about it.
I'll be tuning in Friday night. I'm one of those guys, Ted. We talk tech a lot, so I become a lot more engaged in when things happen technology wise. Like I said, I'm waiting on what
Yes.
Amazon I do for football. I would love to see how AWS is going to work in a full fledged Amazon production this year. Um, I'm intrigued what happens with the NBA League Pass the next year or two. We all talk about NFL League Pass, NFL Sunday Ticket, but I'm interested in what NBA does with League Pass the next couple of years. Will
Listen.
MLB find a way to be able to, like you said, mention Apple and turn their baseball into, something that's going to be special? What does hockey do next? So oh yeah, I did see that. I did see off night poster on somebody that was nasty. Tell I have to send you the video. I'll send you the video link about that. But all this technological advances in sports is something that's always going to be intriguing. Like I said, Teddy, but if Apple just does something regular and basic, I'll give it 1 week. I'll give it a couple of weeks of baseball.
Well,
I need something that's fresh and innovative. I don't want to see something that's something that I can watch on a regional sports network. I don't want that.
nah, I hope we don't see that. And I don't think we're gonna see that. The flip side to it, This is all part of the ESPN package that they no longer wanted. The Monday, the Wednesday, the Friday.
Yep. And
Um,
even with that said, it's like you said, Apple. Everybody has Apple. Everybody has something involving Apple. So I want to see if the Android folks push towards it. Maybe Ted, the Amazon, the Apple folks might get so upset that, hey, we need this on Android, and then we find an Android way to get baseball. And like you said, Ted, you're a baseball fan. You've been a baseball fan your whole life. You want to see your son's generation enjoy baseball the same way you and your dad enjoyed baseball.
well, I want to stop you there, and it's not going to be through the gimmicks. It's not going to be through, hey, pull out your phone while you're in the stadium, and let's see how many people can connect to Fortnite. The MLB version,
Yeah.
OEM version. No, but I think the smart thing was baseball got younger the minute they cut that deal with Apple. You know
Yep.
why?
Go ahead.
All those darn iPhones
Yep.
and all those, all those millennials that have those iPhones that could pull up the app that's burnt into the OS. So I think they're doing something. Hey, the other piece to it is a slither of baseball will be on NBC, mainly on Peacock, but there might be a game or two this season on NBC. So I would like to see and or hear an NBC game with Bob Costas back at it again. And if they can give us an inning or two of Mike Tirico in there, because I think he's touched all the bases of trying to call every sport. Those two gentlemen calling every sport in creation.
I mean, Ted next to me calling cricket. 3 days worth of cricket at one time. No, but yeah, but when you mentioned the Saturday package, Ted, on Peacock, I need Peacock to have a full-fledged production. I don't want nothing half. I don't want to watch a regional sport. If
I
Peacock does,
don't think we'll see that. I don't think we'll see that with them because that's the one thing I think NBC does well is put together production. Because you think of Sunday Night Football, I don't know who the Fred Godelli will be for baseball, but he's a heck of a
but
executive producer.
I will say this: for as good as their NFL coverage is, their NHL
Lacking.
was something left to be desired.
Yeah, it was lacking. It was lacking.
It feels like they spend all their money on NFL and Notre Dame football. Everything
Yes,
else, lackluster. And the Olympics.
in the Olympics, which nobody watched because everything was on tape delay or it was a 12 and a half hour difference.
And that's why I'm as much as I want to watch the United States in the World Cup, congratulations on them qualifying for the World Cup tonight. It's in Qatar.
So wait, they qualified for the World Cup, but didn't they lose?
So based on how they played throughout their group play, the only way they would not qualify for the World Cup tonight is they would have lost by 7 goals.
Okay.
So they lost, but they still won. They got enough points to qualify for the World Cup, and the World Cup draw is actually on Friday.
Okay.
So it's going to be quite nice to see where the United States falls in line. Hopefully, it's not a situation where it's like Argentina or Brazil or England or France or Spain, Belgium. Hopefully, they get kind of a good draw so we can get them into the round of 16. And then at that point, 10, it's knockout soccer.
Hey, I gotta ask you the primary reason why we asked you to grace our screens once again. Put together an article for the NIBC expanding its National High School Basketball League for the 2022-2023 season. And a reason why it was near and dear to me, not just AZ Compass, who has actively retweeted this article and reshared it. Unbelievable. But big shout out to Long Island Lutheran High School, otherwise known as Lehigh. Danny, the Geico National Fields happens over the 72-hour period. What's your thoughts on the NIBC? Where do you see them? Do you see them expanding even further in 23, 24? Or do they keep this tight knit? And are you okay with a super league, a high school super league?
So to answer your question, I do feel like it's going to expand. I think they're going to take the model of let's not put too many teams in because of travel and logistics and kids' education purposes. I think a lot of times you'll see kind of like these tournaments on weekends or during the week. They'll put all the teams in one little area, have them play a couple of games, and then maybe branch back off and then come back later. I think for these schools, like you mentioned, the 10 schools involved in it, they're going to play the best competition. And like for example, in Arizona's case, they're not considered a team that can play the teams in the state of Arizona because they're not. I think it was a nonprofit.
A charter school.
They're a charter school. So in charter school cases, guess what? They can't play the type of schedule. And Ted, these super leagues are forming, Ted, because you have leagues like Overtime Elite, for example, taking some of the best players in the country and bringing them down there, paying them. We have NIL rules. We have things that are changing the landscape of the game. So what can you do? Well, Ted, you saw 38 games on ESPN Family of Networks involving these 8 schools last year.
Yes.
And so, Ted, now you're standing at 10. That means you're going to have more coverage next year. We talk about the Geico tournament that starts tomorrow. It's basically 8 of the best teams in the country. 6 of the teams that are playing in the league are playing in this, and it's more exposure. Iron sharpens iron, and it went away, Ted, from the format of being able to have the best 16 teams in the tournament because of restrictions. We mentioned, like I say, in Arizona, you can't play charter schools if you're a public school. So it's changing the landscape to match what Overtime Elite and matching what other leagues are paying people, Australia, and those things who are acquiring the best talent in the United States to go there instead of going to places like Oak Hill, going to places like IMG, who are already known for taking the best players anyway.
That was good.
But I will be watching because Oak Hill does play tomorrow at 12. Big shouts to Christian Reeves. I've been friends with his dad for years. Christian is the center. I think he wears number 30 for Oak Hill. He's a 7-footer, reclassified. He's going to Duke next year.
Tell me this much. How big is this? Day 1 is going to be on ESPNU. Day 2 is going to be on ESPN2. And then the championship is going to be on Big ESPN.
Ted, once again, it's exposure. This is the way it counteracts. Like I said, it's counteracting what goes on in these other leagues. Now, the only thing we're worried about now is when these kids in high school start getting paid, because Overtime Elite's cutting checks. This league right now, you might see, okay, we're gonna start giving kids $2,000 stipends for playing in this league.
Right.
That's the next thing because we have ESPN television money to be able to pay these kids. And Ted, like you said, when you're a kid in high school, if you get a check to play basketball, of course you're going to take it. Especially when it doesn't hurt your eligibility for college.
That's true.
Like I said, Ted, I'm all for the best playing the best. You get outstanding matchups every single time.
I just love the fact that Disney or ESPN or whomever is at the point of, okay, maybe they'll shove down your throat, put these games on ESPN Plus during the regular season, but for the tournament, they're putting it on the linear channels. And I think that's a fantastic idea.
And Ted, to be honest with you, the rising number of charter schools growing for basketball across the United States is everywhere. That's the growing trend. It's everybody wanting to have a charter school. I mean,
I want to throw one thing by you, and we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
We might not do too deep of a dive on it,
Okay.
It's not near and dear to me, but it's near and dear to a few people in New York State.
Okay.
The budget was not passed, but the budget for New York State was presented. It's a $216 billion budget for 22-23. Okay.
Okay.
Of that, $850 million of public funds, of tax-paying dollars, are going to the Buffalo Bills' new stadium.
Okay.
I just want to read off some facts to you and get your take on this. $1.4 billion venue.
Okay.
Of that, 60% of it is being publicly funded.
Okay.
600 million through New York State, 250 million through Erie County, which
Okay.
still falls under New York State.
Okay.
25% is 25% will be charged to the Pagulas. So
Okay.
they're on the hook for $350 million. 15% is being handled by the NFL via loan.
Okay.
$200 million loan. 150 million of those dollars, Danny, is forgivable.
Okay. So
So
they got to pay back 50.
they got to pay back 50.
Okay.
So, and trust me, the Pagulas are going to share that, be able to pay that $50 million back by if they
PSLs.
charge their fans PSLs.
Yep.
I do want to say this to you. The Pagulas are worth $6.5 billion.
Okay.
Why the heck are the tax-paying people fitting the bill for 60% of this stadium? And I know this is not a new argument, but I just want to give you some facts before you answer. The facts go as I want to let you know, Buffalo is the third poorest city in the United States of America.
Okay.
The median income, $23,000 a year. That's almost 30% lower than average.
Okay.
Unemployment and poverty rate in Buffalo is double of the national average.
Okay.
So if I live in Buffalo and if the median income is $23,000,
Yep.
and I usually take let's say my family and I go out to dinner once a week. Tell me this much, Danny. When there's a game, I'm going to have to choose whether to take my family out to eat or go to the Bills game. Buffalo is not a place where people fly into and visit. It's not LA. It's not New York City.
Okay.
So I just want to ask you, why is this being done?
Ted is don't say Ted. This is really quick. It's a really quick statement. What you won't do, somebody else will. So Ted, okay, Buffalo doesn't pay it, but you don't think there's a bunch of not NFL cities waiting and willing to give $850 million for a new stadium? Ted, they if they want it, they'll get it. The question is Buffalo going to give what they want? At this point, they will. That's the reason why.
Okay.
Because Ted, if it fails, Ted, can you imagine St. Louis on the phone trying to acquire the Bills? Can you imagine the city Toronto trying to get the Bills to come across the border?
I just want to leave you with this, Danny. I can't wait for Buffalo to receive a Super Bowl. Try hosting a Super.
Well, no, because it's considered an outdoor stadium.
Right. So is MetLife.
Yeah, Ted, they put no Super Bowl in Buffalo.
Right. So
and they regret.
I'm just thinking. I'm just saying.
Did they
Inclement
regret
weather.
Super Bowl in New York anyway?
Say it again.
Was that Super Bowl in New York considered a mistake?
Well, they got lucky. They got lucky because I think the next day Danny, it snowed like 15 inches the next day, the day after the Super Bowl. So,
Oh,
tell us where we can find you. Tell us where we can read some of your work. Tell us where
you can
the
catch
latest and greatest.
you can catch me on Sports Radio 850 AM or 96.5 FM in Norfolk, Virginia, on Sports Insight 757 with Jay Lee. I am the co-host of the show on Saturdays from 9 to 11. You also can check out my work on Sports Radio 96.5fm.com, talking all things Redskins. I'm sorry, Redskins, Commanders.
Whoo! You
I know it's
said
I know Ted.
that name.
I know it's so everything Commanders, UVA athletics, as well as we're getting into stuff with the Nationals because it's baseball season, and all things in pretty much in the what they call the DMV, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So we'll be talking all those things, and catch me on Twitter at Danny DANNY Thompson on Twitter.
And I am Ted Hicks. You can find me at the real Ted Hicks, or you can go on Twitter under Late Night Parent. Want to thank you guys once again. Thank Danny for joining us for this quick almost 37 minutes. It was sold as 15 minutes. All right, we're out, people.